From the Department of Homeland Security, Harvard is being held accountable for collaboration with the Chinese Communist Party, fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and pro-terrorist conduct from its students on its campus. They have lost their student and exchange visitor program certification as a result of their failure to adhere to the law. Let this serve as a warning to all universities and academic institutions across the country. Enormous escalation from the Department of Homeland Security. Essentially, Harvard no longer has the ability to accept international students, and any international students that are currently staying there will have to transfer to other universities. It's something like 30% of their student body. Secretary Noem's letter to Harvard. Is it? Maureen Martin. Okay, yeah. I'm writing to inform you that effective immediately, Harvard University Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification is revoked. As I explained to you, hold on. I thought Trump was done dick riding Israel. Well, yeah, but the support for Israel from the administration has never been about Israel. It's always been about having an excuse to crack down on left protesting. DHS is scared, huh? No, you should be scared, actually. As I explained to you in my April letter, it is a privilege to enroll foreign students, and it is also a privilege to employ aliens on campus. All universities must comply with Department of Homeland Security requirements, including reporting requirements under the Student Exchange Visitor Program regulations, to maintain this privilege. As a result of your refusal to comply with multiple requests to provide the Department of Homeland Security pertinent information while perpetuating an unsafe campus environment that is hostile to Jewish students, promotes pro-Hamas sympathies, and employs racist DEI policies, you have lost this privilege. This action should not surprise you and is the unfortunate result of Harvard's failure to comply with simple reporting requirements. On April 16th, I requested records pertaining to non-immigrant students enrolled at Harvard University, including information regarding misconduct and other offensive that would render foreign students inadmissible or removable. Consequences must follow to send a clear signal to Harvard and all universities that want to enjoy the privilege of enrolling foreign students. If Harvard would like the opportunity of regaining Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification before the upcoming academic school year, you must provide all of the information following requested below within 72 hours. Any and all records, whether official or informal, in the possession of Harvard U, including electronic records and audio or video footage regarding illegal activity, whether on or off campus, by a non-immigrant student enrolled in Harvard University within the last 5 years, regarding any dangerous or violent activity on or off campus within the last 5 years, any threats to other students or university personnel, whether on or off campus, within the last 5 years, regarding deprivation of rights within the last 5 years, disciplinary records within the last 5 years, and of any protest activity involving a non-immigrant student on a Harvard University campus in the last 5 years. Any protest activity. Obviously, this is impossible to follow. 72 days wouldn't be enough time to assemble all this information and provide it to the DHS. It's not followable. Though what they've chosen to ask for, why are they targeting non-immigrant students? Because immigrant students are done. There's no point in targeting the immigrant students. They're done. They're going after the non-immigrants. They can snap their fingers and deal with the immigrant students. They've already done it. They've revoked what'll happen to these students? Well, they have to transfer to a different school now or go home. God, I hope there's some kind of judicial recourse. Yeah, well, Harvard says they're going to fight it in court, but I don't know how much that's going to do. They have the best lawyers, and the Federalist Society likes them more than they like Trump. Yeah, just keep in mind that the goal of this administration is to make the judiciary irrelevant. Do the international students get their tuition back? Probably not. I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't know. There might be some like variance there, but my guess would be like probably not. Generally, these are wealthy students if they're immigrants, coming in for Harvard. Not so much concerned about their financial status. If anything, the lack of their tuition it means they can no longer subsidize the poorer American students who go over. But then there's also the whole like fascism thing. Pretty bad.
The Trump administration says today it will now block Harvard University from enrolling international students.
The government is revoking a certificate that allows the university to take in students from abroad. In a letter, the government also says in part that all international students must, quote, transfer from Harvard to maintain their non-immigrant status.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton, who's been trying to track this very quickly. Antonia, this is just developing, so details are sort of limited, but this is like the next chapter of a saga that's been going on between Harvard and the administration.
We love self-induced brain drain. Yeah, in addition to what this represents for like the future of America, I guess, and like the unitary executive theory and the crackdown on left protesting and everything like that, one of the big things worth thinking about in the long run is that this country internationally is like beyond cooked. So much of our so much of our power and our prestige and our influence internationally stems from the dominance of our educational system. You know, people coming over to our universities and such. It's insane. Like this, it's just, it marks a new era, one in which we've like self-destructed essentially for nothing. Wait, I thought non-immigrant referred to students on a temporary visa. I think you're right. I think you're right. Because if you come over on a student visa, that's a non-immigrant visa, right? Yes, I think you're correct. Yes, my apologies. So what they're talking about here at the end, non-immigrant student, the reason for that caveat is because technically if you're here in a student visa, you're not an immigrant. Like the expectation is that you're here to be a student, but you're not immigrating to the United States. Yeah, not any kind of like permanent residence or work residence or anything like that. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that correction. Yes.
That's right. Harvard, of course, is suing the administration over the efforts we've seen over these last several months for them to basically demand kinds of data from the school, ask for ability to make changes to programming, hiring, and firing decisions in certain departments in the university. Harvard University's president, Alan Garber, balked at all of that. That's why this lawsuit is in place. And they've basically lost $2.2 billion of critical research and medical funding. So that's the backdrop here. So this is an escalation. And I just want to spell out what this means. So this is going to mean that in the next school year, international students are not able to come to Harvard University.
But many of them easily get jobs in the U.S. and get fast-tracked into green cards, especially in demand fields like STEM. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's like a sign of American power. Like that's good. Like wealthy, like children of wealthy families from all over the world travel to the United States, so their best and brightest get education here and then get jobs in America and contribute to our economy and our development. Like that's a good thing. Like the brain, to be clear, brain drain is bad for the countries from which the brains are being drained. It's not bad for the country the brains are coming over to.
And that's about 27% of the campus undergraduate life. And they pay full price. So who this is actually going to hurt? All of the marginalized and underprivileged Americans who depend on financial aid. When I was back in about 10 years ago, Harvard had about 60% of undergraduates depended on some level of financial aid. So that gives you a sense of the scope and how many people will be impacted if the money and the support from this program is lost, which it looks like it has been.
And you're previewing next year, but let's talk about the now. What is Harvard saying? And what about international students who are there on campus right now?
Well, Harvard has already released a statement calling this unlawful. I'll read a bit from the statement. The government's action is unlawful. We are fully committed to maintaining Harvard's ability to host our international students and scholars. This retaliatory action threatens serious harm to the Harvard community and our country. And what they're saying here is that this is, of course, a fight for Harvard, but really it's a fight about higher education in the United States. Harvard has consistently made the argument that what's happening there could come to other universities. The
reason they're focusing on Harvard from the get-go is that Harvard is the legal center of the United States, like from not just with the alumni or just its education, but culturally, it's the center of law in the United States. It's a part of the same process that they used when they broke the backs of those legal agencies and blackmailed them into giving a quid pro quo, or sorry, to free work for the Trump administration. The quid pro quo being that they no longer had the executive orders, you know, preventing them from working in the capacity of the federal government. What about Yale? Well, Yale has less of a, I guess, like immediately considered activist culture that they can use as an excuse. But don't worry, like this applies broadly. What they're doing to Harvard right now is meant to be like a targeted strike at what is considered the center of academia. Also, no offense to Yale heads, but great offense to Yale heads. Everyone knows that Harvard's the center of the Ivy League like circuit. We all know that. Like it doesn't matter what your outcomes or results are. It's because Harvard's Harvard. It's a cultural thing. It's like it's an effort to swiftly strike and decapitate like a source of potential future opposition and current opposition to the Trump regime.
Very soon, but there are international students waiting for their graduation day in just a couple days right now. With this system being revoked, technically what students are telling me they're fearful could happen. DHS agents, ICE agents could come to the campus if they do not leave and go back to their home countries in the next couple days, and they could essentially go through what we've seen happen to students in other campuses across the country over the last couple months. That's a real fear on Harvard's campus right now, and a real part of the question that we're still trying to get answers to about how all of this is actually going to be enacted.
Because they're here on student visas.
They're here on student visas that now are no longer valid.
Right. All right. Antonia Hilton, I know you'll continue to watch it for us. Thank you.
It's pretty bad, man. I want to see the full Harvard statement. Oh, it seems the Harvard statement wasn't that much longer than what we saw. Intellectuals are punished under fascism. Yeah, I mean, it's not as though Harvard as an institution is meaningfully anti-Trump. You know, it's more just like cutting things off before they can do anything. Oh, there we go. Okay. I guess what I saw from the NPR blurb was another summary. Could never ask anyone from Harvard to be, you know, curt with their writing. Can Harvard ignore this? I mean, you can like ignore the demands of a police officer and see how it works out for you. Can a judge block the invocation of that rule? Yeah, but the Trump administration isn't really listening to the judges, so... Is the CCP shit just for comical fear-mongering? Yes. They're members of the Harvard community. Over the course of the past week, the federal government has taken several actions following Harvard's refusal to comply with its illegal demands. Although some members of the administration have said their April 11th letter was sent by mistake, other statements their actions may seem otherwise. Freezing of funding, freezing of grants, considering revocation of Harvard's tax-exempt status. The consequences of the government's overreach. It is really difficult to be sympathetic for Harvard at all because they're so evil, along with basically all higher education. But obviously, this is very much like a lesser evil situation here, you know. Severe and long-lasting research the government has put in jeopardy includes efforts to improve the prospects of children who survive cancer, to understand at the molecular level how cancer spreads throughout the body, to predict the spread of infectious disease outbreaks, to ease the pain of soldiers wounded in the battlefield. Sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease are on the horizon. Heartbreak of illnesses. The government has cited the university's response to anti-Semitism as a justification for its unlawful action. As a Jew and as an American, I know very well there are valid concerns about rising anti-Semitism. To address it effectively requires understanding, intention, and vigilance. Harvard takes that work seriously. This is one of the, like, again, it's so difficult to side with them when higher education, almost across the board, fully bought into the right-wing narrative that the anti-genocide protesters represented a threat to Jewish students and faculty, right? Like Harvard wasn't as complicit as, say, the Columbia administration, but overwhelmingly, like there was that shared lie across the board. Obviously, there is a rise in anti-Semitism. It's just coming from the Nazis who recently wrote them a letter from the Office of the Department of Homeland Security. Like but by continuing to play into that narrative, you really give the administration a lot of pretext. April 11th demands seek to control who we hire and what we teach, stand for the values that have made American higher education and abroad, yeah. We will also soon release the reports of the Task Force in Combating Anti-Semitism and Anti-Israeli Violence, or Anti-Israeli Bias, and the Task Force in Combating Anti-Muslim, Anti-Arab, and Anti-Palestinian Bias. I love the false parallel here, that anti-Israeli bias is like anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, or anti-Palestinian bias. You see, like even in this like nominally equal exploration, anti-Israel bias. Who the f cares if people are anti-Israel? It's a state. It's a nation. At least those are separate words. Yeah, I suppose so. Technically, it does say Israeli, not Israel. Yeah, but I do think that the inclusion of that at all really does. Like, again, can you, like, House of Un-American Activities Committee, right? We know what they're doing here. Like, we don't need to pretend. The conflation of Zionism and Judaism and, you know, so on and so forth. Like, we're familiar with this game strategy. They've been doing it for a long time. It's been very loud since October 7th. Anyway, we'll see. If we have anything even remotely resembling a functioning judiciary, Harvard will win this. That is to say, I have no idea if Harvard is going to win this. Absolutely no idea. The real result is just that no one's going to apply to U.S. schools in the future. I mean, no one's traveling over here. No one's traveling over here as it is, right? Like already we have businesses that rely on tourism. They're all like screaming right now. Certainly up north near Canada, but also across the board. Why would anyone want to subject themselves to coming over to the United States right now? The risk you take. And a stat came out saying America's the only country on earth that expected lower tourism rates this year. Basically, every single metric for our economy is trending downward right now. But, you know, Whatever. I'm glad we're rooting out these anti-genocide protesters. That's good, at least. Canadian Century, maybe? I'm holding on to China for now. We'll see how that goes, okay?